Back again, y'all. You know what it is. It's ringside right now. Of course, you know I'm with Clint, I'm with Curtis, and this is your boy Pierre. So, fellas, what do y'all want to get in talking about what's just happened recently with WWE?
Uh, I want to talk about the bad news, the thing that we are the most unhappy about. Let's just go and get out the way. The releases. Um, let's just go ahead and talk about it.
It happens every year
Yeah,
and it doesn't get any easier.
It's
yeah.
like it got.
Especially just looking at the list of the names that were released, like it was very confusing. Especially when you had someone who was in an on-air storyline that got released.
Yeah, I think Kyrie was the biggest surprise, and from what I've been seeing online, she's been getting the biggest fan support, which I'm glad to see that. I think I heard a "We Want Kyrie" chant on SmackDown. I'm glad to hear that because the fans do need to speak up. But that was, I would say, the most surprising and the most ridiculous. Secondly, personally for me, the White Six. People had different opinions of the White Six. I saw a lot of talent there. I saw a lot of potential that was being wasted while they were on the roster. Because I complained, before that they weren't being used well enough. The storyline they had with the MFT wasn't being put on WrestleMania. And it's like they didn't know what to do with them. They had an idea, which I believe was a Bray Wyatt idea. They brought it in and didn't know what to do with it. So they just were just kind of stuck there. And now you've got these guys who are released from contracts and don't know where they're going to go because creative couldn't decide what to do.
To correct you, it was on the We Want Kyrie chants were on Raw, but I do agree with you, and I think in general, most fans, including myself, were most frustrated because the releases, like you said, they're in active storylines, so we're left on a cliffhanger. We'll never know how Kyrie got over the whole abuse from Asuka,
Nope.
and there's been conflicting reports on the reason for Kyrie's release. One says that she wanted to move to Japan. Then you have other reports saying she didn't want to go back. But like you said about the Wyatt Six, that almost felt like not only just a waste, but almost disrespecting Bray Wyatt's memory because again, they also had a storyline. The MFT's trying to get the lantern back, and that's where I felt the disrespect came because again, that there was really never a an ending to that storyline, and of course, you had other talents that were either being wasted or just not being used. Now, there are some cases I can kind of understand because the Motor City Machine Guns throughout their time, they were only there for a cup of coffee. They didn't really get much of a pop in every time they've since their debut.
Well, and maybe it's creative, maybe it's something they did. I don't feel like they were introduced proper to the crowd. They were just kind of thrown out there. And I mean, I don't know. So was AJ Styles. He was just kind of thrown out the Rumble, but
But
people
AJ is AJ versus Motion Machine Guns. They just kind of got thrown in there and gave him the title like tag titles
right
like
away,
real
yeah,
quick. So I
yeah.
mean, there was no chance for the crowd to figure out. Okay, should we cheer for these guys? Should we boo them? Before you just gave them a title. So
Kind of
Yeah,
get to
that
plus
didn't
know
make sense to
WWE has never really
me.
been good at pushing their tag division anyway. Because I mean, look at the tag teams
That's
we
true.
have, and where are they? Look at where's Fraxium, where they're bringing the Street Profits back, but I mean, we don't know if they're going to really get a push after this current storyline. You got a lot of tag teams that really aren't doing anything right now.
Now, somebody I want to touch on is Aleister Black because him and Selena Vega being released, which was kind of interesting. And I'm also looking at where could he possibly go because I'm hearing things that he was one of the cancers that was in AEW locker room. So what does he do?
You know what? Despite what we've heard, I actually wouldn't be surprised to see him back in AEW, but I doubt they're going to do much with him anyway. They're
yeah.
really doing anything major with Andrade, and this is his second time there.
I'll give you a quick answer to
But
that and the long
after a while, it's
answer.
kind of feeling like,
Yeah, the quick answer to that question is no. The long answer to that question is no.
Pretty much. Um,
yeah. And what about the LFG winner from season one, Tyra May Steele?
And
Like,
didn't even get a chance to
really?
do
What,
anything.
what was the point of having her win the competition if you're not going to use her on NXT, or maybe she
See,
couldn't get over on NXT?
this is my problem with the releases this year because we see this every year, and you get your surprises. We talk about the Wyatt Six. Bray Wyatt was released, so no, I can't really say that releasing the Wyatt Six is disrespecting to his memory because it's kind of par for the course. He got released. Samoa Joe got released, so I can. There's always going to be surprises. I don't think the guys that were released this year were released based on potential or talent or what we can do with them. I think it was released solely on budget. I think Kyrie saying your LFG winners, your, people who got big contracts or were brought in for big storylines, they were cut because of maybe the amount of their contract, maybe the budget, and that came from up top. And when I say up top, I don't mean Triple H, I don't mean Nick Khan, I mean TKO.
Right.
TKO
Yeah,
put their
exactly.
foot in the soup trying to take over and push whatever profit margins they're looking at. They interfered in WrestleMania. It didn't work out. No one wanted the Pat McAfee thing. No one wanted extra high ticket prices. The attendance was down, so they didn't hit the numbers they wanted. So guess what? Now we have to have budget cuts.
But here's the question I got, because when you read certain things online, was it TKO saying we're over budget, you need to cut wrestlers, or we're over budget, you need to cut these wrestlers? Because I'm hearing that Nick Khan and Triple H had a hand in selecting who they were going to cut. So it's like, what's the deal with that?
Now I've read that too, but this is the first thing that came to mind because I'm not a trusted person. I'm kind of a conspiracy theorist. So you're Triple H, and you're making Triple H money, and Curtis, you're Nick Khan. You're making Nick Khan money, and I'm the head of TKO. If I come to you and say, "Hey guys, cut these wrestlers, but I want you to take the blame for it. I want you to take the fall." Are you going to take the fall for it?
Honorably,
I mean, there was instances where you see someone fall on their sword for it. So go ahead, Curtis.
Nick Khan is going to probably say, "Okay, I'm fine," because people are going to kind of feel whatever way about Nick Khan anyway. This time, before TKO came around, it was Nick Khan who was behind the releases. So fans are going to feel the way they feel about him anyway. With Triple H, do you really ever hate Triple H? I mean, really, since he's been head of creative, have there been times where you really just, I mean, okay, yeah, there are things you don't agree with, but I mean, Triple H is a lot more likable than, say, Vince or, some other members of creative, when we call him Papa H for crying out loud. So I think Triple H could take the blame for it and then later down the line forgive him. I think it's really all about imaging is what I'm saying. It's all about putting out an image to protect TKO so that fans don't turn against TKO and see who the real enemy is. But the real enemy is TKO.
Yeah, and I've always held on to this idea, and it kind of stems from last year, which was really a pretty mid year for WWE, and this was actually Triple H's first really bad year under the helm as creative. But think about how many bad years, especially the last 15 years, Vince was under the helm. There were some pretty bad years there, but yet fans have still given him grace. He deserved a little
Well, let
grace
me ask you
there.
this. Was it a bad year or was it a bad WrestleMania? I'd say the year was stagnant. I wouldn't say bad.
Well,
I said
the
mid
thing is
because
with that though,
I
go
said
ahead,
mid
Curtis.
because it was more average. Yes, WrestleMania was a big disappointment. I wouldn't say necessarily bad, but just a really, really big disappointment. Then, of course, add that with how the John Cena retirement tour went, which also kind of a disappointment. There were some good points of it, but then WrestlePalooza comes along as the first PLE on ESPN. That went terrible, and next thing you know, it just felt like things were kind of going down like a downward spiral. And even with that, Triple H still deserves a little bit of grace because remember And the first 2 years, he came out like a bat out of hell. He was on fire with everything. But of course, some people are always going to make the excuse, oh, he was gifted the Bloodline storyline. Well, he's trying to rebuild a couple of things, and we'll get into that with Raw. But I feel like there's gonna be some things that I think he'll put together. But of course, there's always the idea. There's always going to be, well, Triple H is going to expect certain things from certain wrestlers because he knows the ins and outs of the locker room.
This is the only reason I'll give Triple H a tiny bit of grace, because his major storylines had injuries.
Yeah.
And you're having to pivot in the middle of that. So what he was able to salvage out of it, I give him that. I give him some credit on that, because Seth being hurt, Braun Breaker being hurt. I mean that affected a lot of the matches they were going to have going toward this Mania, and so that's the reason why night one was like so terrible, because I believe the night one card would have been way better had those injuries not been in play.
Yeah, it pisses me off. I don't think it's a big secret that everything was driving this year to be Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns, and then that fell apart. And then it was going to be Braun Breaker versus CM Punk, and that fell apart. So I was in line to be a part of the main event this year, and fate intervened not once, but even twice.
Yeah.
So that's the reason I give him a little bit. But outside of that, some of the ways they pivoted, even including the TKO involvement, didn't make sense or wasn't really a good storyline when you really look at it as a whole. And even now, when you look back at it, it's like, even if this was pitched to you first, would you have even liked that storyline? That's kind of the thought process behind it I have.
Yeah, and I mean the McAfee thing just made no sense whatsoever. And another thing too, and even with ticket prices, because I mentioned that earlier, you're having WrestleMania back to back in the same city. I understand there's inflation and whatnot, but why would there be such an increase from one year to the next if you're in the same city?
And then having less seats, less tickets sold really tells you how bad it was.
Exactly. I mean, it's WrestleMania. It's WrestleMania. You shouldn't have to go on TV and beg people to buy tickets, and give, 25% discounts and all that. That was a huge red flag.
And I'm wondering about the promos that Cuddy and Punk cut right before Mania, talking about TKO. It's like, was that really, hey, this is to retort what the boys want to say to TKO? Was there something like Triple H was like, say this, it's going to draw on Pete, and maybe it can do X, Y, Z because they'll get us looks or whatever?
I think it may have been a little bit of both. I think that was Triple H's way of speaking out, but he can't come out and say it, so he used CM Punk as a proxy, and then he can go back and play it off as a storyline and help sell the event. It's kind of like the whole Mr. McMahon thing. The Mr. McMahon character was created from the Bret Hart screw job, but he also made it into a storyline, and he turned it into an advantage. So I think it was a combination of the two. It was probably, I'm not going to say it was a shoot. Well, I'm not sure if it falls in the definition of shoot, because I'm sure it was pre-planned. It's just a matter of who was involved in the planning. But yeah, I would say that Triple H authorized that and kind of played off. So yeah, it's just part of the angle, because we haven't heard anything else about it since then.
Yeah, but one thing
there was no payoff to it at WrestleMania or anything.
Yeah. Well, we can discuss that all we want, but I think one thing for sure that I'm pretty sure that a lot of wrestling fans can agree. Of course, we all wish everyone that's gotten released, we all wish them the very best, because again, nobody ever wants to receive that phone call and say that your services are no longer required.
Exactly.
That's true, but
especially the guys in NXT who never really got a chance to come
right.
up. And I was waiting on Andre Chase to come to the main roster, because he had a great angle in NXT, and
I was an
Andre
Chase fan.
Yeah,
but I think majority of those who are cut, though, you're definitely going to see them on the indie somewhere, possibly even in Japan. There's only maybe one or two I'm wondering will they have a landing spot, or will they even decide to wrestle? Someone like maybe a Nikki Cross, or someone maybe like Bo Dallas. Maybe Bo is like, you know what? Maybe I'm just kind of done with wrestling for now. And maybe Nikki maybe want to concentrate on being a mother. Who knows? I don't,
That's a possibility.
whatever she wants
I
to
will
do.
say
But
this, and this is one thing I do feel better about, is that wrestling isn't where it was years ago, where if you got let go from WWE, that was it. Maybe you could go to TNA and make a little bit of money, but that was it. But with guys like Cody and Matt Cardona showing that you can make money elsewhere, they've kind of given those guys a roadmap. So I'm hoping that they do go off and, maybe they won't be huge, huge stars, but at least they can go off
They have a
and,
chance.
have a chance, make a career, make a living.
well, I think if you really look at Cody's path of how he came back, and I
Yeah.
think the Indies would be a chance to maybe pursue a different persona that now, that's what made Cody so hot to like, we got to bring him back because the persona he did while he was on the Indies worked so well. And I think this may be an opportunity for someone maybe like a Alba Fire to, reinvent herself, or maybe go back to what she was before, they had her with the secret her service and all that, or but like I said, some of the other ones, well, like Zoe Stark, I want to see Zoe Stark come back because she
Yeah.
was a good wrestler.
She was.
For sure. And I hope AEW picks her up. Or if not AEW, then definitely go to TNA or something like that whenever she gets better from her injury, for sure.
Yeah, that's just simply
But
bad luck with injuries. And I've
Yeah.
seen over the years, there have been a lot of releases from guys who unfortunately have just had the worst of luck with injuries. But yeah, but now as far as the Motor City Machine Guns, and I'm only saying this because, and I'm not trying to discriminate against age, but they're not exactly spring chickens. They are kind of up there with AJ Styles. But I'm thinking, and I could be all the way wrong on this. Maybe they're probably looking to get into perhaps like a producer role or something. Alex Shelley probably has probably have had that. I think one of the Guns has had that kind of experience, or kind of like
I mean,
has
yeah, if
been.
you think about it, you look at Petey Williams, for example.
Yeah.
Petey Williams, I don't recall him ever wrestling in WWE
No.
on screen.
Mhm.
Yet he's a major producer backstage
Yeah.
now.
Exactly. So
A
that
bit
So
might
that
too.
be
that make you so that's point right there,
yeah,
Curtis,
so that
about them
might be
possibly doing
their
it.
Yeah, I think there's an option
avenue
for
there.
them. But I mean, they can still go. They're like the Rey Mysterio tag teams. Look at Ray. He can still go.
Right.
So, AJ could still go if he wanted. He just knew when to quit. He knew, okay, hey, I'm not going to be able to do this too much longer. So rather than go out and taint my legacy and give bad matches, let me just quit now while I can. But AJ can still go. Ray can still go. The Guns can still go. It's just a matter of their choice.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe they close it out in the place that got their most notoriety, which is TNA.
TNA, yeah, exactly. Japan is an option, not just for them, for a lot of guys, because Japan just lost a lot of wrestlers. We're going to talk about, some of the NXT debuts in a little bit, but Evil, you're looking at the Dogs who just went to AEW. A lot they've had some guys leave recently, so they've got room, I would imagine, to bring in some new talent, help build them up, make them better.
Yeah, but like you
Definitely.
said, just like it's not like the years past. There are still more avenues now than what it used to be. So
Yeah,
it's not the end of the world for them.
I mean, because look at like what Cross is doing in MLW.
yeah, exactly.
Come back and
He's
Killer Cross, and
he is killing
his
it.
name is getting some buzz now, being back in MLW. So who knows? That might even lead to a return for him. So hopefully, all these guys and ladies land on their feet to make it somewhere. Like I just feel bad for like more of the NXT roster
Yeah.
because you're dedicating your time to learn a system and not sure how much time you actually had before you came there, and now that opportunity is completely gone from that
Yeah,
aspect.
but and again, this is what gives me hope. You've had other guys from that NXT system who didn't really get a chance to make it there, but they made it elsewhere. Kenny Omega came from that system.
True.
CJ Parker, who is now known as,
Juice Robinson.
he came from
Juice,
that
yeah.
system and got released from NXT, and look where he is now. So I've got hope.
Yeah. But again, no one wants to get cut But sometimes, as they like to say, it can be a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
So you guys tell us what you think. What do you think about the cuts? Who do you think deserved to get cut? Who do you think didn't deserve to get cut? Or maybe there's somebody who's still on the roster that should have been cut. Who knows? Just be sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Just hit us up. Let us know. And of course, the best way to win, though, as always, is a handful of tights. And speaking of handful of tights, it's a good way to get some merch, don't you think, Clint?
Yeah, I've actually seen some new shirts come up there. They're looking really good. You can't really find them anywhere else. We mentioned TKO. I'm seeing those FTKO shirts up there. I'd like to see a lot of those in the crowd on Raw and SmackDown. So now go check that out.
Definitely. Because, for us, we definitely want to start promoting that hashtag FTKO. So, hey, that's been our show for right now. Y'all hit us up. Let us know what you think. We'll hell at y'all next from ringside right now.
Throw plenty of blows, cause the Ryders roll thick like NWO. Everybody wanna shine till they get Steiner line. Show vital signs, pin to 3. If you ain't leave with the belt, then you ain't win to me, cause I'm the heavy.